This is Scott Becker with the Becker Private Equity and Business Podcast. Thank you for joining us. Today's discussion is on the stock markets, tariffs, and reactionary perspectives. So here's the deal. I mean, the first news today really is that the stock market is surging based on thoughts that President Trump will start to calm the tariff fears and sort of soften the tariff war that's been ongoing. The second thought for the day is that I am generally not a pro-tariff guy. Generally, I've been a bigger fan of free trade and more trade between nations. I think it's good for a lot of different reasons, aside from lowering the cost of goods in the U.S. It also, more economic relations between countries tends to lessen the chance of conflict and wars, which I think is a good thing. Now, the only thing that makes me pro-tariff is there are really a couple things that cause me to become pro-tariff. And again, the big news of the day is that the markets are way up based on Trump dialing down tariff fears in hopes that he'll try and ease up on some of the tariffs that he's doing. But the thing that makes me change sides or become a reactionary on this issue is as follows. The U.S. traditionally has had lower tariffs than the rest of the world. The U.S. has also ran trade deficits like no other country in the history of the world, meaning we're buying a ton of stuff from other countries and exporting a lot less. Our net trade deficit is really high. We export a couple $1 trillion in goods a year, but we import a ton more than that. And that can generally lead to lower wages here because we're not keeping our workforce busy doing some of the jobs that we're buying from overseas. And it could also lead to in lots of deficits as a country, which has done a marvelous job of rolling up. So again, I'm generally anti-tariff, but the only thing that makes me pro-tariff is when countries that import almost nothing from the United States then threaten retaliatory tariffs. We import a ton from them in part because we've had low tariffs on goods coming in. They import next to nothing from us in part because they have high tariffs coming into their country. And then when we start to use tariffs to sort of even the playing field some, they start to go crazy about imposing retaliatory tariffs. And they're often imposing retaliatory tariffs on literally a small fraction of the goods that we import. So they import almost nothing and threaten tariffs. And this is the only natural sort of jingoistic type of nationalistic type of fervor that leads me to become pro-tariff. It's this sort of whining from countries that go crazy when we impose tariffs that become close to their tariffs, and then they threaten tariffs on us on the nothing that they import from us to begin with. And remember, this whole debate starts because we're essentially importing a ton more goods than we're exporting. So these other countries aren't buying goods from us, and they've traditionally had higher tariffs than us. In any event, that's the gist of today's discussion. And the good news is the market's way up on potential reduced tariffs. The second and third thoughts here are essentially that I'm not a pro-tariff guy. When these countries that import nothing from us and charge us already big tariffs on goods exported into their country start complaining about us imposing some tariffs, then I can't get more further behind the tariffs just as a reaction to this ridiculous behavior from some of these countries that have already been so soft on importing from us and why we run such a huge trade deficit. I hope people follow the line of thought here. I'd love your thoughts on it. Please feel free at any time to text Scott Becker 773-766-5322. And I know people have all kinds of different views on this. Thank you so much for listening to the Becker Private Equity and Business Podcast. Thank you very much.